We're back in my workshop in Southlake, Texas, and let me tell you, I'm sure you looked at some of the befores with this kitchen. This was a challenge. This was probably the most awkward kitchen that I have ever seen, and that's actually saying a lot because I've been in a lot of properties. But we had a lot of different challenges that we needed to solve and big decisions that we had to make that really impacted our budget, the look and feel of the house. And so my goal with this was really to figure out how to redo this kitchen in a way that kind of didn't break the bank. You know, I didn't want to get into that $30,000-$40,000 renovation for the kitchen. And I also wanted to make sure that we kept some of the character of the home. So the first problem that we had to look at solving was figuring out how to open up the space. Part of a kitchen and having the hospitality in the kitchen is making it a place that people are comfortable and like to hang out. You know, when you go to the holidays and dinner parties, it just seems like people congregate in the kitchen. So I wanted to make sure that we really renovated this space in a way that caused people to want to be with me in the kitchen as we were cooking, or just be able to visit at their time when they were visiting the home. So we had to open this space up. On one side, when we look through the cabinets, where we had the stove top, and then the exhaust fan above that, there was a wall that blocked the view going into what is now the formal living room. So opening up that space helped tremendously, but we still had an issue with the exhaust fan that was coming down from the cabinets, blocking the space. There was really no way that somebody could have a conversation while they were working on the cooktop. So I found this amazing exhaust fan on Amazon for a really, really good price that went up into the cabinets. And what that allowed us to do is to be able to see through the kitchen into the dinette, and from there even into the formal living room. So as people are cooking, gathering in the kitchen, they're able to communicate with people around the property, and that's really important in a home, that you feel part of things when you're in the kitchen. So we're coming in the kitchen to give you an idea of, when you walk into the house, how the flow of the house goes, and also to show you that this fireplace is a huge part of the kitchen as well, which is actually a beautiful element. But with the orange of the brick, it was a little tricky to kind of make some decisions for everything to come together. So as we were deciding on the floor, it was really important that we pick out flooring that really kind of cut the orange and went well with the rest of the home. And with the repose gray in a lot of the walls, and then alabaster on other parts, we wanted to make sure it wasn't too cool. And that's why we landed on Memphis Light, which is from Home Depot. It's a laminate floor, and it looks great coming up to both the gray repose gray paint, and also with the orangey brick. Also over here, this was a big decision because we had paneling here, which we chose to keep on the back of the cabinet, and we painted it in the color alabaster. But we had this range hood that came down and was blocking the view in the kitchen. And it left us with kind of a little awkward stair step here. So I'm always thinking, like, that's a little bit of what I would call a design blunder. So what can I do to actually make that blunder look like we did it on purpose? And the idea came, and I think it worked really well, is to add two lamp post lights. They're really in right now. It went with the character of the coastal cottage, and so I added those at the top, and it really draws your eye when you come in to those, and it kind of takes the attention away from the stepping of the cabinets. In addition, there's this very cute dinette space, and I wanted it open enough. So the wall behind it we removed that, and I knew I didn't have a space for a huge table, but I wanted to make a big impact. So what I did is I got this substantial light fixture that actually, if you look at the curves, goes with the curves in the cabinets. So I thought that was a little design element a lot of people might not catch at a conscious level, but would be there for them at a subconscious level. The cabinets were that orangey stain oak and not looking good. And on top of that, we had a dated backsplash, a very dated countertop. And as I look closer at the cabinets, you know what? They're absolutely beautiful. They were solid oak, and we decided to paint them the alabaster color and then bring in the nickel knobs, and the backsplash along with the updated countertop really gave us a look in that kitchen that I was very, very pleased with. One of the things you want to consider before you do a renovation, either in your home or maybe you're working on an investment property as well, is any change that we might want to make from a design perspective is going to have an impact on the infrastructure of the property. And by that, I mean the plumbing and the electrical. So I looked at that before I made decisions because I didn't want to have to move the plumbing. I didn't want to have to add a lot of electrical, because what happens with that is you have to have permits for those types of moves, and you can get into a lot of expense with adding those types of things. So we were able to keep within the existing infrastructure and just create beauty around the existing cabinets. You want to make sure you have somebody that knows what they're doing when they paint cabinets. I've seen some really bad painted cabinets. These were done well with the right type of paint. And also just make sure that on the inside you are painting the entire cabinet inside and outside so that it all looks consistent. The next thing that I was really hoping to turn from a blunder into something that might be beautiful is the lighting. It had a very harsh fluorescent light, which is very common back at the time that this was built. And I switched that out to a nice hanging black fixture that went with the rest of the home. And I added can lights in the kitchen because when you're cooking, when you're baking, you want to have a lot of light in the kitchen. And it was just fluorescent, looking kind of dark, and it made all the difference. And in addition, what we did is we painted those beams in the ceiling, just like we did in the family room, that alabaster color. And it went from a dingy old kitchen that you wanted to kind of get out of as quick as possible to a beautiful, light, and airy kitchen that I found myself enjoying spending time in. There was no space for the microwave. One of the things when you're in a smaller kitchen you have to pay a lot of attention to is the value of counter space. So when we purchased this property, the microwave was sitting actually on the countertop, which left almost no room for any baking or anything that you would want to do on a countertop. There also was no island in the kitchen, which caused sort of an awkward space between the wall, the fireplace wall, and the sink. And I was envisioning if I was there with my grandson, for example, and we were baking cookies, where would I even roll the dough out? There was nowhere that made sense. So we quickly decided to invest in cutting a hole in the brick and putting the microwave on top of the existing space where we got a new oven. There we are able to add a nice built-in microwave, open up the counter space, and then add an island that was custom made in the kitchen to be able to provide that room for perhaps serving a glass of wine, which we have it staged for that. It looks absolutely beautiful, or doing the baking and the cooking that everybody likes to do, and you have to set things in different places. One of the things we had with the layout is we had some issues with fitting in an island, but I knew we needed an island. There wasn't enough counter space for us to go without it, but the traditional islands that I could purchase were too wide for this space. So you want to make sure that you have enough room to move around, to wash dishes, then to serve, and that it was big enough to be able to pull things out of the oven. So I had this custom made, and it was a very reasonable price, but it fit perfectly in the kitchen. And I painted it the Repose Gray, which is walls in the rest of the house, and used the same countertop to really create a consistent look. So when you're designing your kitchen, maybe you're updating something, pay attention to those walkways and make sure that you leave enough room to comfortably get by in the kitchen. So this was our approach with this kitchen, and we think we made the right decisions. I'd love to hear what you think. You might wonder, what does scripture have to do with the kitchen? Well, it has a lot to do with the kitchen and actually every part of our home. But when we think about the kitchen and really about sweet tea hospitality, it's about laughter, joy, enjoying wonderful food and drink. And it's really interesting that God uses the word taste in scripture. In Psalm 16:11, this is from the Passion Translation, he says this, "Because of you, I know the path of life." This is David talking. "As I taste the fullness of joy in your presence. At your right side, I experience divine pleasures forevermore." God says here that we can taste the fullness of joy. And it reminded me that I have definitely had some great memories of places I've gone, or even holiday meals at our own house. And I think that the food was good. I'm quite certain it was. But do you know what I remember? I remember how it made me feel. And when people say that I enjoyed coming to your home, it's about the hospitality. It certainly is about tasting the food, but it's more about bringing God into the home and people being able to taste the fullness of joy in our homes.